Most of the futurists these days talk about catastrophes. This could be a time when the oceans rise and we have to go to the high ground. Now, is that something we can't recover from? I don't think so. In fact, what it does is it marginalizes all those big cities along the coasts where the market forces are trying to tell us, all the rest of us, how to behave. And they're keeping us out of our contact with nature. So this is maybe not a bad catastrophe. What happens if the poles shift? Well, it would mean that a large number of the populated countries, the most populated countries, would then end up in a colder climate. Well, that would create their industry, that would tighten up their focus on their resources, that would cause them to have fewer children and spend more time collecting fuel. So maybe that's not such a bad catastrophe. What about the rogue nation with a nuclear weapon? Well, what if something like that happens? Isn't it time we got rid of all the nuclear weapons? What's going to cause us to change our mind? Now, on the brighter side, we already know how to plan for desirable, optimal futures. So why aren't the governments doing that? We know that the planet is being connected by what I call empathic communication. Not only do we have a lot of real communications, but we have a telepathic quality where we know each other more and we feel each other more. We have the World Wide Web, which is functioning like the best possible governing authority we could ever have by probably a factor of 10. So we're resting on that, and as the bigger power centers relax, we can then relax onto this beautiful webwork of intelligent connection. We do have 100 billion communications a day from cell phones and emails. This planet is a connected planet. It works as a global planet, and it's time we recognize that. We do have more respect for our movie heroes and our sports heroes than we do for our politicians. So why are the politicians on the front page? This is a planet that already has global heroes. We actually built during the last century, and thank you for all those huge engineering efforts that created the connections between all the ports, all the airports, all the radios, the televisions, the telegraphs. We have a global infrastructure that can move even the heaviest thing around. We don't need more of that. That time is over. Let's use it, refocus on regional needs, and let that be done with. We have had military forces from 11 nations in a room planning the recovery of the biosphere, very much like the second Marshall Plan. And there's no reason to believe that all the militaries together couldn't be our action agency for getting this planet back into the shape we want it. We have communities of interest created by the web that cross every border known, especially national borders. What's wrong with imagining that we have an overlay of interest that will now guide us into the future, not a centralization of interests, which has gotten us into so many arguments in the past. Nature, it turns out, if you leave her alone for a bit, has her own R&D idea of what's supposed to happen. And in my personal view, nature has a better sense of what it wants to do than we do. We have to stop imposing our ideas on nature and work equally with her to partner on the ways we develop the future. We also, friends, are being influenced by entities in the galaxy. Talk to any of your friends, ask them about their dreams, about the messages they're getting, about the people they know that are channeling, etc. Our benevolent galactic friends are giving us little nudges in the right direction. And I'm sure if it was in our best interests for them to intervene, they would. The last thing we need to do is to follow what we learned in the 1950s movies and shoot them all down when they arrive. No, get over it. We're part of a much larger reality, and all these things are positive about our future. We are moving from an old age to a new one, a next stage, if you will, and the movement is simultaneous. As the older forms come down, the newer ones are laid in place. And we have evidence that most of those are in place now. Let's look forward to the next age, an age where we inhabit the biosphere and look forward to the galaxy and move into friendly global villages everywhere, connected by the green stream and the internet. We can do this. Go planet.
So close to you, so close to you. Be so close to you, so close to you. Be so close to you, so close to you.